Welcome to Out of Body Experience TV, and today we are talking about scary stories. This happened to me when I was in, I believe, I would say grade five. When I was grade five, I was supposed to accompany my sister to her co op placement. I remember my hesitation in wanting to go because we had to go to a hospital. Being that age, I'm like, it kind of weirded me out. I'm not gonna lie. So we get to the hospital, and my sister is in the interview process, being shown around the hospital with the nurse. So I'm here waiting. So I'm waiting in the waiting room, and there's patients that were, just relaxing. There was one individual who came over to me. The thing is, this individual he was in a wheelchair. He was being friendly. He came over to me and he introduced himself. Hey, my name is Tom. How's it going? How are you? And he asked me my name. And I was kind of hesitant because, when we're taught as kids, you don't talk to strangers. But we're in the hospital setting, so I didn't want to be rude. And I was like, oh, my name is Juanito. Very friendly, so where are you from? He was asking me all these questions. Oh, whereabouts are you from? Your parents, your sister. Again, I didn't want to be rude, but I was like, oh, we're from Ecuador. I was born here, blah, blah. And then he's like, oh, you know what? Wait right there. I'm going to go get something and I'm going to come back. He goes to his room and he comes back with a letter and he showed me that letter and he's like, oh, is that her name? And then I was like, no, 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 that's not her name. He decides to go back to his room, and this time he comes with cookies. So he decided to give them to me. And of course, like I said, we're told as kids never to accept anything from strangers. I took the cookies and I was like, okay, thank you very much. What happened was I went to the bathroom and I threw them in the garbage because, like I said, I wasn't going to take anything from strangers. So I did not take the cookies. I came back out of the bathroom. I I noticed that the interview process was over between my sister and the nurse. So they were chatting, and I was like, okay, we're getting ready to leave. So just as I was getting ready to leave, he said his goodbyes. I said, being cordial, I said my goodbyes. So then I went over to the nurse. She says to me, oh, she's like, oh, that's Tom. He only has like several weeks to live because he has cancer. Like I said, he was in a wheelchair and he had no legs. Anyhow, fast forward, I would say like maybe 8 hours later. It's around 10 o'clock, and I'm watching this show, Benny Hill, and I'm here laughing, giggling at the show, Benny Hill. I remember hearing a knock on the door. And I'm thinking, it's weird. Who's knocking at this time, right? Because my father at the time was at work. My mother was getting ready for bed, and my sister was in her room, and it was only me watching TV. And I go over to the door, and then I'm like, who is it? And who do you think responds? I got chills. I got goosebumps down my back. I froze because all of a sudden I just heard, it's me, Tom. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was frozen. There were so many things that were going on in my mind at the time. I'm like, how in the heck do you know where I live? No information was disclosed. So, is this paranormal or a logical explanation? Because remember when the nurse told me that he only had several weeks to live. Back of my mind, I'm thinking, what if he passed away that evening? And because I gave him the time of day, I was talking to him, being cordial to him. What if maybe he decided to pay me a visit via the spirit? I don't know. But it sure tripped me the hell out. I did not open the door. I wasn't going to open the door because I'm like thinking, what the heck? Right? How did you know? How did he know where I live? I ran up the stairs and I covered myself in my bed sheets and I never spoke about it to anybody. I never spoke about it to anybody. A year later, I mentioned it to my sister, and I said to her, "Remember that guy that was, talking to me, being friendly to me?" And I told her the situation, and she literally freaked out. She freaked out. She's like, "Oh, don't tell me that." Anyhow, you tell me your comments, your thoughts. Peace and have a good one. And until the next experience, take care.